What's up everyone? So today I'm out on the bike. It's been a while since I've uploaded a bike video, but today is an awesome day. It's getting to the end of riding season. I'm sure we have a few more days of some perfect weather to ride through. I apologize if the audio is a little bad. It is pretty windy today, but hopefully it'll come out sounding okay. So the video that I wanted to put today was just the overall running cost of this bike so far. This is the first season that I've owned this bike, so I've had it about 8 months now. I've put roughly 3,200 miles on it. I think that's a pretty good amount. I've tried to ride the bike as much as I can, but of course there have been days where I've been in the car. So trying to ride this as much as possible, and I think that's a pretty good start so far. So over the last 8 months of ownership, I'll go over what it's cost me to own this bike so far. I'll start off with oil maintenance. I have done 2 oil changes on this bike so far. The first one that I did was when I got the bike, the day I brought it home, changed the oil, and then just a few months ago, I changed it again. So I like to go every 6 months or 5,000 miles. So obviously I made it to the 6 months before. And the first oil change that I did, I just ran normal oil. It was non-synthetic. And the oil cost me, it was about $20, I'd say. I actually had some at home that I could use. So if I had to get 3 quarts of oil, non-synthetic, probably $15 to $20. And then I had a high flow oil filter, which was about $7. The second time that I changed the oil, I did go full synthetic. So once you go full synthetic, I've been told that you have to stick with it. And the first time I got the bike, I wasn't sure what the previous owners had put in it. So now the bike is running full synthetic. It takes 3 quarts. That cost me $25. And unfortunately, I couldn't get a high flow oil filter in time. I didn't think about ordering one ahead of time, and the dealership didn't have any of that brand. So I ended up going OEM, and that cost $14. So double the price of the high flow, but you know, I was changing the oil that day and I needed it, so I'll probably go between the OEM and high flow depending on which one I can get quicker. And so oil maintenance really hasn't cost me that much so far. Running the full synthetic, I'm gonna plan to go 1 year on this oil. So hopefully I can do that with it getting into the winter months. The bike is gonna sit a little more than I'd like to, but I'll be checking it at the 6-month mark to, you know, just see how the oil is going, and hopefully I can go 1 year on that oil change. So next up is insurance, and on a bike it's a little different than a car. You pay for the whole year rather than increments of the 6 months. So for 1 year on this bike I pay $555.18. So I think that's pretty reasonable. That's about half of what I pay for my car for the year. So you would expect it to be, you know, not as much. And the coverage is also not as much. Since bikes are relatively inexpensive, you don't need a lot of coverage. I do have full coverage on this bike, but it's in a smaller increment than compared to my Lotus, of course, because of the price difference. So that's pretty reasonable. I do have Allstate. I found that that was the cheapest rate all around for a bike, and a pretty reasonable price that I figured I could pay for my bike insurance. Next couple of items that I'll go over are maintenance costs, but they're not routine like oil changes. For example, the tires. The tires on this bike are relatively new, so I have probably another year or so on them before I need to change out for a new set. So in looking up new tires, just in a quick search, I found that for a full set, so front and rear, you're looking between $150 and $300, just depending on what brand you go with. And then I did look up individual tires. I think fronts were running a little under $100, and the rears about the same. I think they were just a little more expensive since it is a wider tire than up front. So that's just another cost of the bike, and hopefully these tires will last me a good amount. A big thing with motorcycles is how much gas do they burn. This is a high revving engine. The RPM range on this bike red lines at 15,000, so I'm not above 11,000 that much. Once you're in that range, you're going to be hitting triple-digit speeds. So of course I'm not going to be doing that on a back road like this. I'm just cruising. But as far as gas goes for this bike, it does take premium. so that's all I run in it. It's a 4.8 gallon tank. I can go about 120, 130 miles. I have pushed it to about 140, but again, that's just depending on how hard I'm pushing the bike. So if I'm just cruising on a back road like this, I can get up into that higher range mark. And gas for this bike, I would say an average is about $6 for a full tank. Haven't been too much above that, but that's a relatively inexpensive price to fill up about every 2 weeks. Next up is the brakes. The brakes on this bike look like they are in great shape for having 15,000 miles on the bike, so that's not something that I will be replacing just yet, but a cost for that maintenance, I found brake pads to be between $15 and $30. So again, relatively inexpensive for changing out pads, and they should last, I would say, like 15 to 20,000 miles, and that's just going to depend on how hard you're pushing the bike. You know, if you're out on the track day, it's going to significantly decrease that mileage wear, but this bike has been pretty well maintained. It's not been ridden that hard. I do push it when I can. Something that you might not think about when first getting a bike is all the gear that's associated with riding a bike. Of course you need a helmet, but everything else to consider, boots, pants, and the jacket, they're not, you know, mandatory things that you need to have. But after riding my bike for the last 8 months, I would definitely recommend getting full gear. So all the gear that I have cost me about $1,000, and that is a good chunk of change. I was originally planning to spend about $400 or $500, so doubling my budget to get everything that I needed, you know, was just something that I had to do. I'm a lot safer in all my gear if I were to go down, which is something that, of course, you want to be safe when you're out riding a bike. So $1,000 for everything that I have, and it is all ventilated. So I have ventilation in my boots. The thick leather pants that I have are really cool in the summertime. They don't get too hot, but they are comfortable. And then I have a vented jacket, the gloves, and of course the helmet. So the helmet cost me about $300. The gloves were $80, and then the boots, pants, and jacket were roughly $200 on the average for those 3 items. All the gear that I have is perfect for the summertime. It's not bad in the wintertime. I just layer up, so I wear thick snowboard socks under my boots, I wear a neck warmer, and then a hoodie under my jacket. I can ride in 40-degree weather, I can ride in 100+ degree weather and still be okay. Again, it's very rare that I don't have any of my gear on. Of course, I'll have my helmet and gloves, but jacket and the rest of it, very rare that I don't have it all on. But again, I would definitely recommend getting gear. I absolutely love it. I feel so much more comfortable when I'm wearing the gear, just because you never know what somebody's going to do out on the road. A lot of drivers are pretty crazy nowadays, especially with texting, and I think they were just looking at their phone too. You always need to be on the lookout and just be well prepared, you know, in all your gear. And next up is the air filter for this bike. It's located right about here. You have to take both fairings off. You have to take the gas tank covering off to get to it. It is quite a lot of work disassembling pretty much the front half of the bike here. But if I do need to replace that, I did check it when I got the bike. It was a little dirty, but it didn't need to be replaced. I just needed a good cleaning. That's going to be about $50, again, just depending on the brand that you go with. So I'm sure mine is going to last about another year. I'll definitely check it the next time I change the oil. And so just preventative maintenance. It's probably got some stuff in it over the last 8 months, but nothing that would obviously need to get a new one. So at some point I will be replacing it. And last up is the chain. You do have some adjustability with the chain, of course, in moving the tire farther away from the bike. That'll tighten up the chain, but you will get to a certain point where it's just stretched out too much. So I found chains to be anywhere between $60 and $100. I know you might find them a little cheaper than that, maybe around $40, but again, just depending on the brand. I'm probably going to stick with the brand of chain that I use for my dirt bikes. I can't remember that off the top of my head. I think it's that DID brand, and they've lasted very well on the dirt bikes. Of course, those we push a lot harder than the bike here, so that's going to be probably sometime next year that I will have to do that. Overall, the maintenance on a motorcycle, it is really inexpensive for having a bike. Of course, a bike is going to cost you well under 10 grand if you can find a good used bike. I actually paid less than 5 grand for the 2007 CBR that I'm on right now. Perfect bike, low mileage, and honestly I see no reason to get rid of this bike. It's paid for, maintenance is relatively inexpensive, and it's just a super fun toy to have. I hope you all enjoyed that video on the running costs for my bike so far. It's been an awesome first season on the bike, riding it as much as I can on the back roads, things like that. Can't wait for more videos of this bike to come. Hopefully I'll get out on the track at some point in the near future and just keep having fun with this bike. It's not something I'm looking to get rid of, so I'm going to have it for quite a while. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it the thumbs up, click on that subscribe button down below, and definitely check out more videos on our channel. I'll see you all next video.